Please stand and join with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I want to welcome everybody to the Treasure Map meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're glad you are here, especially newcomers, in keeping our singleness to purpose and our third tradition, which states only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. We ask all who participate to confine their discussion to the problems with alcohol. The AA preamble, reprinted with the permission of the Grapevine Incorporated. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not aligned with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. We want to send a special welcome to anyone here from out of town. Would you please stand and be recognized at this time? Also, is there anybody here for the first time at the Treasure Map meeting? Please stand if you would. Thank you. And finally, is there anybody here for the first AA meeting? Please stand if so. Okay. Thank you. Please feel free to use the Treasure Map Meeting 12-step card, which you'll find over here, to give contact information to new people and invite others to our group. All are welcome. Now, please welcome Chris to read how it works.
Chris Ballheim, alcoholic. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates, they are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we'd find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, having made direct amends to people wherever possible. Made direct amends to people wherever possible, except when to do would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we are wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we are alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought.
Thanks, Chris. The seventh tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. When we pass the basket, we ask for your support. Your donations to Treasure Map meetings support all group activities. In addition, they pay our rent, coffee, snacks, and literature. Plus, we happily support our local Sioux Falls Intergroup, South Dakota Regional District 5 statewide Area 63, and the General Service Office, supporting Alcoholics Anonymous around the world. Now, would you please welcome Todd to come up and read the 12 traditions.
Good night. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, and my name's Todd. I'm an alcoholic. To those still in its fold, Alcoholics Anonymous has made the difference between misery and sobriety, and often the difference between life and death. AA can, of course, mean just as much to uncounted alcoholics not yet reached. Therefore, no society of men and women ever had a more urgent need for continuous effectiveness and permanent unity. We alcoholics see that we must work together and hang together, else most of us will finally die alone. Tradition number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Dale.
Okay, I have one announcement, and it's a big one. Working the Steps workshop is this weekend. We'll be looking at steps 10, 11. It starts at 9 a.m. through 3 p.m. Please bring your big book and your willingness. A suggested donation of $20 per person is appreciated. However, full and partial scholarships are offered. For more details, to pre-register, go to www.treasuremapmeeting.com. Doors open at 8:30 in the gym right here at Faith Lutheran Church. Please take flyers back to your home group, which are over here, for other meetings, and please pass the word. By the way, breakfast and lunch, right? Not bad. Okay, tonight's meeting is a birthday night, and we have with us 4 birthdays to celebrate. The first one is for John with 1 month. John, would you come up and say a few words?
John, alcoholic. Real quick, I just want to thank God, my sponsor, the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the actions in this book. Thank you. God bless.
Thanks, John. And then we have at 5 months, Dennis. Dennis, would you please come up and say a few words?
Dennis, alcoholic. It's been a good 5 months. Glad to be here. I'm glad I found a home group, and I look forward to the rest of my life. So with that, I'll say thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Dennis. And then we also have with us Jack with 5 months. Jack, would you please come up?
Hi, I'm Jack. I'm an alcoholic. I think what it took for me to get here was damn near death. So I'm sad it took that to realize that I couldn't control what I was drinking. But I'm glad I got this program, or I finally agreed to give all to this program, because it's made life a lot easier and better. So thanks.
Congratulations. And then we have, last but not least, we have Mike with 5 years. Mike, would you please come up?
My name is Mike. I'm an alcoholic. Without this program, I wouldn't be standing here today sober, clean, and I guess happy, joyous, and a little bit free today. I just think back of September 28th, 2014, the day before I got sober, and how I was near death, homeless. I had the clothes on my back and a backpack, but I did have a working cell phone, so priorities, right? And I just think of how today I have a tolerable sponsor. I have an awesome home group, which is almost represented by an eighth of the population here tonight. And I'm just glad to be here. Glad that we have retreats every August, because those have been awesome. The last 2, Chris, we missed you. And I'm just thankful to be here. I'm glad to be here, glad to be sober, and I'll keep babbling, but I'd rather not and bore you guys to sleep. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, and congratulations to everybody. And now we will take a 15-minute break. Anything else? And then we'll have Mike wants to make some announcements when we come back. So take a break and come on back. Thanks. Yep. Go ahead.
Sandy Beach.
Yeah, Sandy Beach. Last name was Beach. It's actually Richard Beach. Sandy was a nickname he got in the Marines.
I wish you would.
If you could ever hear it, he's my favorite speaker of all time. There's nobody like Sandy.
My favorite speaker of all time is the next one.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you might have to wait a few years for that one, but still.
I got it knocked down in a couple weeks.
Yeah, tremendous.
The big book is not the treasure; it's the treasure map. Where did he say that in?
He said it all the time. It's his line. He said it all the time.
Follow the treasure.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Donnelly. I'm an alcoholic. And I just have a couple of announcements, and then I'll invite John to come up and share what God has done in his life in just a moment here. This Saturday, as all of you know, we are having our Working the Steps workshop. I'll wait a minute. No problem. Thank you. The Treasure Map meeting, all right, is committed to two things, right? Carrying a message of Alcoholics Anonymous from the Big Book and sponsorship, and then allowing or trying to produce some level of opportunities for our home group members, friends of the group, people who come occasionally to be able to actually work the steps, right? We talk a lot about Alcoholics Anonymous and the step works and do this, and we got to do this, and we got to do this. And oftentimes there is not an opportunity to actually find someone to walk through that process with, right? So every quarter here at the Treasure Map group, we take a day and we walk 1 through 9, and then the next one we do 10 through 11. If you haven't been to the 1 through 9, how many were at the 1 through 9 group? Remember that? We had about 70 people there. It was fantastic. If you haven't been to that, you don't need to come to this one. It's a completely separate deal completely, right? Although it's completely tied in. So if you'd like to come, there is scholarship money available, so don't let money be the reason you don't show. Saturday morning at 8:15, we'll open up, and we'll have a breakfast. We'll get started right at 9. We'll go to about 12:30. Then we'll have lunch. All that's included. But we'll get 10, 11, and 12 done on that day. Okay. For home group members, we are looking for 2 sets of volunteers. One to help with food distribution during Saturday, and then also setup and takedown. The church has asked us to do some things here that we need to have set up in a special way, and so we could use some help with that. Lastly, I want to make one more announcement. Is Amy here? Where's Amy? Amy got married this weekend, and let's give her a hand. That's awesome. Congratulations, Amy. I have the pleasure of introducing a gentleman who's going to be our speaker tonight. John G. is from Aberdeen, South Dakota. We have had the privilege, the Treasure Map group has had the privilege to speak up there several times. Many of our members have been up and spoken at his group. We thought we would ask him to come down and share what God has done for him. So we appreciate him. We appreciate him making the trip. His buddy Kevin, I think, came down with us as well. So without further words, let's welcome John G. from Aberdeen. Yeah, all right, man. There you go. Elbow.
Hey guys, my name is John Grubner. I'm an alcoholic. Hey guys, sober night by the grace of God, the miracle of AA, and probably some good luck. When I look around here tonight, there's a couple familiar faces and a couple friends here, and it's nice to see Mike. It's nice to see Scott. It's nice to see Estelle. You know, people with a true servant's heart. And then I see this guy up here. And a couple of years ago, Scott's at our meeting, and he's speaking. And so our meeting's a lot like your meeting, but we have 2 10-minute speakers, smoke break, and a main speaker. Scott's our main speaker. And usually when somebody comes down to Aberdeen, they bring somebody with them to speak. And so we go up and we ask this guy here, and I'm just zoning out his name right now, and said, hey, could you be a 10-minute speaker tonight? He goes, no, I won't be, but I'll come be the main sometime. And my buddy who asked him, I looked at him, I said, all right, don't ever call him. He's never going to speak at our meeting. Now, in reality, I didn't quite know how this guy rolls, and that's just him saying he didn't want to speak, not being an asshole. So I walk in tonight, I'm like, there's that guy. I don't like that guy. And so we're good right now. There's some brotherly love going on. And So I'm gonna share in a general way some experience, strength, and hope. I'm gonna tell you guys my talk, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. You know, what I know we're all thrilled to be at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting on a Thursday night when football's on. You know, obviously this is doing some good in my life to want to get in the car, drive, and come share with you guys. And so, you know, the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is when you go to a meeting, if this is your first speaker meeting, the best advice I can give you, and you're going to hear this a lot of times, is look for the similarities in your talk, not the differences. You know, similarities keep people, you know, drunk out there. And because if I start really picking people apart with their talks, I can really hate somebody pretty quickly and just completely tune them out. So that's the advice I'm giving to somebody who's new or somebody who's coming back. And so, you know, I sobered up in 2002. I was 21 years old. And so I've been sober. I just turned 39, so I've been sober for quite a few years. And I had to sober up young. So I've grown up in Alcoholics Anonymous. Maybe not according to Kevin, because Kevin told me last night I need to grow up a little bit. I was telling him some of my good stories. I get a little worked up sometimes. We were driving here tonight, and I don't always obey the speed limits. I just kind of just go how I'm feeling. If I'm in a car that's cruising pretty good, and sometimes people honk, and sometimes they flip me off. And I didn't know you guys had road construction coming into this, you know,
In the back.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that.
It's all right.
So when I was coming into Sioux Falls, I didn't know you guys had road construction going on. So we all had to merge into one lane. And next thing I know, this guy in a Subaru Outback is flipping me off because I'm not letting him in. And there's just nothing tough about driving a Subaru Outback. If you're a guy in South Dakota, you drink whiskey, you own a gun, you hunt, and you drive a pickup truck. Maybe the Subaru Outback's a family car. But that's just me throwing it out there. Kevin, thanks for coming up tonight. So, you know, probably about 10 years ago, I'm at a meeting, and it could have been 12 years ago. And my buddy Jason brought in a gentleman named Bob. And Bob was somebody who went to church with him, somebody who was having a really tough time, somebody who his pastor had talked to Jason and said, can you take Bob with to meeting? Because Bob was obviously having some drinking problems and a lot of living problems. And Bob came in there, and he's handicapped, and he's old, and he's mean. He's just an asshole. I've met a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'll tell you one thing. There's not anybody in AA meetings that I wouldn't give a hand to and help them out, but there's people I don't care for. And that's just reality, and that's just living life. And Bob was one of those guys, because sometimes when you project something, you're going to receive something in return. And he was just kind of a mean, nasty man. But we helped Bob as much as we could, gave him rides to meetings, did everything we could do to help him be sober, because that's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And Bob quit going to meetings. And one time I was going to get a slice of pizza at Thatsa, and it was the middle of winter, and Bob was handicapped, and he was driving his scooter around, and he got hung up in some snow. And I went up and I gave Bob a push and helped him get out of that snowbank. I said, hey, Bob, come to the meeting. Because even though I didn't really care for him as a person, it's like, you need this Alcoholics Anonymous, and we'll go out of our way for that. And because deep down in my heart, I want everybody, to have some peace and some happiness and some joy. And even somebody like Bob. And that was the last time I ever saw Bob. A few weeks later, my friend Jason called me up, and he said, hey, John, Bob died. Hey, John, can you be a pallbearer in Bob's funeral? I didn't even know Bob's last name. I wasn't close enough to carry that guy's casket. When I showed up to the funeral home, there was probably about 60 people there, and there was just so much artwork displayed, just beautiful artwork. This guy was just so talented. And when it came down to it, the pastor was talking, and he said, geez, did you guys know that Bob could play 5 instruments? He was so talented. He had such a beautiful voice. And he just went on and on talking about Bob. And what it came down to is he didn't have much to say other than that Bob was a talented artist. And then he opened it up for the floor for people to speak. Out of the 60 people that were there, one person identified as a friend. And that was his PO officer. Everybody else that was at that funeral were good members of his church that felt that they didn't want this guy to get buried alone. My life changed that day, because sometimes when you think about alcoholism, you think about, I'm going to die drunk. Oh man, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to die. I think for me, that at that point, the worst thing that could happen to me would be turning into Bob. And we have good examples here, and we have bad examples. It was one of the saddest funerals I've ever seen, and it wasn't sad because it was such a loss. He had lived his life, and it was time for him to go on. It was because the guy had family. He had family, and not one of them was there. Nobody cared. He pushed everybody away, and he buried him, and that was it. It was like Bob never existed. Nobody cared. That changed my life that day. Something else that kind of changed my life. A couple of years ago, I'm out in Colorado. I like to go out to Colorado. My best friends live out there. And Tom Petty's playing at Red Rocks. I'm like, oh man, guys, we got to go with Tom Petty. Nah, John, he's out here every week. We'll go catch him next year. So it's like 2 years ago, and I'm out there again. and there's tickets available. Like, guys, let's go to Red Rocks. Let's see Tom Petty. Man, a month later, Tom Petty died, like 2017. So, and at that point, I was like, I'm not going to miss out on life because somebody doesn't want to go. I just need to take the initiative, and I need to go do things in my life, because something I truly believe in right now is that we have to create our own happiness, and we have to take actions with that. This past year, somebody posted on Facebook, and I do read it sometimes, and this guy was invited to go fishing. And he said, "Nah, I'm not going to go. I'll go with you next year." Well, in reality, this guy's 65 years old. He fishes once a year. He's going to live 20 more years. That's not a lot of opportunity left. And so the perspective I'm putting this in is sometimes you only get one shot at the title. And if you guys ever watch boxing or any type of sports or anything like that, sometimes you only get to the championship game one time. And that's all you got. And so sometimes with Alcoholics Anonymous, because of chance, because of things that can happen when you walk out this door, we only get one shot at this thing. And I'm here for my own happiness. I'm here for my own well-being. There's so many selfish reasons that I'm here. I grew up in a family of strong Christians. And when I say that, it's because they practice what they preach. I grew up in a family of love. I didn't have to be told to love people. We loved each other. And when my dad grew up, he probably lived a hard life. My parents probably got married a little too young. They probably were pretty poor too. And I grew up that way. And man, my dad became a born-again Christian when he was 35 years old. And I remember being a little boy out of the lake cabin that he built with my grandpa with their own hands. And we'd go out into the pasture and we'd carry rock from the beach. And my dad had an altar out there, and we'd get down and we'd pray. And they're simple prayers, but we prayed because we were so connected out there. And he was so grateful for turning his life around with his relationship with God. And so I grew up in this family that we went to church every week, and I went to Sunday school, and I believe this stuff. I mean, it's in my heart. I just truly believe this stuff. And my oldest brother and sister went to a Christian college down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I can't say enough good things about my family and how they raised me as a child. The problem is me. I'm always the problem. So I'm the type of kid where I can go to church and I can blend in and I can be all these things. I'm such a good little boy. But I'm also the little boy that likes watching horror movies. And, oh man, I remember being like 7, 8 years old, and I'm watching like Nightmare on Elm Street and all these types of things. I make my own Freddy Krueger glove, and I get a glove and I throw some paring knives in it, and I'm cutting stuff up. And I was just this naughty little boy because I like attention. And the best attention you can get, the easiest attention, is being that badass, getting in trouble, being naughty. And so I grew up on the south side of Aberdeen. And you're like, oh man, John, not the south side. That was a pretty nice neighborhood. So I can't really play that too much. But man, the guys I rolled with were just all badasses. I'm rolling over. I'm hanging out at the trailer parks when I'm 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm always walking around with knives because I was talking to my nephews a couple weeks ago, and there's this crazy tree fort in Aberdeen. And it basically looks like they cut like half a pickup up, threw it up in a tree. There's no reason it should even be hanging there. And I said, guys, when I was about 8 years old, I would have built that. Because I'm young, I'm climbing up trees, I'm banging in boards. I don't even know if the nails can hold me, and you just keep going because you're fearless, you're invincible, you're all these types of things. And that was the kind of little boy I was. I was out there just chasing the good times. And so, man, I had fun. The first time I ever sold a bomb to somebody, I was probably about 8 years old. When I went to church, we had these little wooden barrels called buddy barrels. And you put your coins into it, and then it's your offering that you give. Well, I took a buddy barrel, I cut it up in half, and then I got some shotgun shells, and I cut them apart. I took the gunpowder, I threw them in there, and I took a firecracker, and I sold it to a kid in the neighborhood, and I got in trouble for that. And that was the first time I ever did a bomb. I remember I don't know. One time, my buddy had these Garbage Pail Kid cards, and they're like little cards of Cabbage Patch Kids, but they're Garbage Pail Kids, and the kid's like brushing his teeth and toothbrush flies out his mouth and those types of things. And I love that kind of stuff. I stole my mom's class ring and a couple radios on my parents' house, and I sold it to the kid to get those cards. And I remember one time my dad woke me up at like 8 o'clock at night because he found out why I didn't just whip my ass. And I was just always getting in trouble. But I don't know. I kind of grew up on my own. My sister's always like, "You're just such a neglected child," because mom and dad were working so hard to get out of poverty, and you just kind of roam the streets and hang out at grandma's house and all these types of things. And I was always getting in trouble in school too, but it wasn't the kind of trouble where they'd call my parents. I only got called on like once or twice. And one time was I got in trouble cheating when I was in 5th grade, and they had to sit outside the classroom pretty much for the whole year. And when they would bring me in to work with other kids, they gave me all the loser kids that should be in special ed because you can't help me on a project. I'm leading this stuff, And no offense to it, but I mean they didn't have any problems. They were just idiots. But when I was like younger, I never, even though I was out there just being this naughty boy, I never wanted to drink. Never wanted to smoke cigarettes. Like my aunt and uncle smoked. It was just so filthy. What a bad thing, because back then, smoking led to cancer and all those types of things. I mean, I guess vaping's okay, but back then it wasn't a good thing. And I never wanted to be an alcoholic either, because when I grew up in this church, I grew up in Assembly of God. I mean, alcoholics are really bad people. They're the type of people that beat the crap out of their family, beat up their wives. They're the hobos under the bridge giving hand jobs to get a Mad Dog 40/40 or something like that. They're just terrible, terrible people, and you don't want to be like that, John. That was my perception of this type of thing. Now things change a little bit. First time I'm around alcohol, I'm like maybe 10 years old. Me and some buddies had stole some bikes, and we ride over to a house, and we crack open a beer and we take a sip, and then there's all this hard alcohol, and we just pour some beer and all this hard alcohol into a glass, and we just take a sip, just to be tough. No big deal. I didn't become a raging alcoholic that day. Nothing happened to me. I was in elementary school. Fast forwarding a little bit, I start getting into high school, and I'm around things. I'm around people drinking, and I didn't like it. I didn't like seeing people getting out of control. I didn't like seeing people getting in trouble. I didn't like people getting high. One time, this kid did some acid or something. He was trying to come down at my parents' house, and they were just such losers. When I looked at it, Just Say No worked for me. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Saved by the Bell, but there's this episode where Jessie takes all these caffeine pills, and she really freaks out, and she's so excited. And I'm like, holy crap, if caffeine pills does that to somebody, what's like cocaine and all those kind of drugs going to do? So I stayed away from that kind of crap. I looked down on people who did that kind of stuff. I was never going to touch that stuff. And one time I'm like 17 years old, and I'm hanging out at this wedding dance, and I'm with this family. I'm with my family, this family that doesn't drink. And next thing I know, people are drinking. My sister-in-law is having some Cosmopolitans. My brother's drinking Amaretto Sours. If you are a respectable man and you go out and drink after this meeting, do not drink an Amaretto Sour. Go drink some whiskey or something like that, because that is just not a man drink. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to drink tonight. And so I started having this drink, and I'm drinking Cosmos, I'm drinking Amaretto Sours. And I don't know if it was my first drink or my 9th drink, but something happened to me. It's like I ripped open my shirt, and I was Superman. I mean, seriously, it's like I could climb Everest. It's like I was Rocky. It was like I could do anything, because whatever I was before, now I was more. If I thought about those hobos being alcoholics, I'm Frank Sinatra. It just made my life so much better. I had absolutely arrived that night. And the next day I called up my buddy, and I said, Matt, you're not going to believe it. I drank last night. And he goes, oh man, it's about time. And so we go get a buyer, and next thing you know, I'm drinking, and I'm the kind of guy that when I drink, I just want to get there right away. I just want to get hammered right now. And so I'm in a beer bong. I'm just going to take whiskey. I'm going to start downing it. I don't have any control. I don't have any filter that says hold back. I just want to go, 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 go. I peed a couple times tonight because I drank a lot of water. Even with water, I drank too much. And I didn't become, raging alcoholic overnight, but I absolutely became obsessed with it right away. I started skipping school my senior year to go to parties. Basically, towards the end of it, I just showed up to take tests and quizzes. That was it. They didn't want to graduate me because of truancy, and that means when you don't go to school enough, they don't want you to pass. And my mom and dad took a lot of trips that year, and they were gone a lot, and my mom said, just graduate them. By the time I got to college that summer going into it, my best friend had bought a house. His parents had bought him a house, and we were drinking every day. And it wasn't drinking out of necessity. It was drinking because I love to drink. I love getting drunk. I love where it takes me, and I'm getting hammered. And so at any point during that summer, if you would have gave me a breathalyzer, I would not have passed at any given point, but I could function. I was just fine. When I got into college, next thing you know, college is a lot harder than high school. I can't just go in there and ace things by showing up. You actually got to study a little bit. And now, first time in my life, I'm really failing. I'm failing at things. And I'm really making excuses because I'm not going to get too much in my childhood, but I could do things when I was younger. I could do things. And I didn't blame people. I was always taught that if you get in trouble, you own up to the responsibility. I can get into those types of things, but I'm changing as a person, and I'm failing, and this test is too hard, or they just flung this on me, or this is just crap, and it's just I'm just getting this completely raw deal. First time I got in trouble at the law, we were having a party at my parents' house, and I left that party to go to a different party. And the kid that was at my parents' house drank, and he drove into a lake, and he almost died that night. And the next day, my buddy called me up and said, "Cops are going to come, man." And I got arrested. I got a warrant out for my arrest. I got called on Thanksgiving dinner, and I was in trouble, and I had to go down with my dad to the Brown County Jail, and he had to bail me out. That's embarrassing, especially with the family I come from. Man, they're such straight shooters. I was very ashamed of that. Very ashamed. A year later, I'm 20 years old, and I'm out at Gypsy Days, and that's our big football party for homecoming. And I get there like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in on all these cakes, man. I'm really going for it. I'm drinking, and there's like 1,000 people out there. Next thing you know, I time travel. It's like 7 o'clock at night. I'm pumping beer off of a keg. I got my Indiana Jones hat on, and everybody's gone. There's just a few of us out there. And I'm like, man, I got to go to the party. And I got pulled over doing 40 and 20 right by the cop shop. And I flew up on the curb and they gave me the drinking test and the breathalyzer and all these types of things. And I didn't do the breathalyzer and I didn't do the blood test. And they took me home. And I went to jail and I got processed and my mom bailed me out. My mom took me home. And I looked at her and I said, hey, Mom, whatever happens is not your fault. I love you. And I went downstairs. I got my shotgun. I loaded it. I'm trying to get this thing into my mouth. And she came down there and she shook me off. And that night, people from my family started showing up. They did an intervention. My dad and my brother came in from out of town, and my grandpa came over, and my brother-in-law, and I just shook it off. Because I don't know how you guys are, but I'm this type of person that when I plan my life in my mind, I have how it's going to go. And my plan B usually ends up, I'm just going to kill myself. That's where my plan B goes to. I don't know why, but I'm just sick that way. And I shook it off that night. I woke up the next morning, just shook it off. Got a lawyer, got out of trouble, no big deal. And I just kept going with it. I kept going with it. And it's like that next year that I drank, it wasn't so, a lot of it was about the party, but a lot of it was I'm drinking because I'm becoming this person I didn't want to be, and it's really hard for me to look in the mirror. And I started hating myself, and I became very depressed. I started wearing sweatpants around. I didn't take showers all the time. By the time I was 21, I started dating this girl that was really, really good looking. I dated her based off of her looks. I found out who she was, and I chased after that. And I got in this really crazy relationship. And I mean, nothing says I love you more than stalking somebody and doing stakeouts and those types of things. And now I'm really getting crazy, man. I'm 21. I'm getting crazy, and I'm getting violent too. You know, the thing about this relationship, it wasn't really it was an open relationship without defining it was an open relationship. I'm doing my stuff, but I'm not telling her. She does her stuff, and she gets caught. The last night I drank, I was like February 1st, 2002. And I knew I was out of control. I knew that I was mad. I knew I was going to hurt somebody. And when I drank, it was like throwing fuel on a fire. And that night, I wasn't going to drink because I knew I could lose it that night if I drank. I never thought the drinking was a problem, but I just thought I can't do it tonight because I get a couple in me. You know, you get that liquid courage and you just go after things. And I'm getting a little tight at this bar, and this guy that I'm with thinks, John, you got to calm down. You drink. So like probably 25 or 27 drinks later, I mean, a lot of drinks later, I end up at our main bar, and I go after a table of off-duty cops and firemen, and I just get roughed up and thrown out. And I wake up in the McDonald's parking lot, and I make it over to my girlfriend's house, and she opens up the door because people have been looking for me, and it was cold out, and I just said, take me home. And she goes, why? I go, I'm going to get my gun. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill myself. And I passed out. I woke up that next morning and started crying. I wanted to kill myself. And I just, I hated who I was. And when I was younger, my dad told me, he goes, if you ever get to that point where you want to be done, you got to come and talk to me. And I went to my dad and I just said, I was honest with him. I told him where I was at. And it was like how I was feeling inside, but alcohol had nothing to do with it. And my family didn't know what to do. We got some psychologists involved, some doctors and all these types of things. And my parents went on a vacation. My brother sent me off to a rehab, and I ended up over at Hazelden. And I thought I was there for anger issues, man. I just, because that day on February 2nd, 2002, my dad said, you need to not drink right now. And he just, we got to get this heat off. We got to calm things down. And it's best that you don't drink right now. And so I didn't drink. And I didn't drink for 2 weeks, and I went to rehab, and I got in there, and I'm still there for anger issues. And Alcoholics Anonymous was introduced to me at Hazelden. We started reading the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the stories in the back. I don't know why, but I started to relate to those stories. It's a lot like when somebody's up here giving their talk, and I didn't judge the people. I couldn't see their faces. I didn't know their circumstances, but I saw myself in those stories. And the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous that's so attractive to me, and especially the stories in the book, is that we all get beaten down so hard and so badly, but there's redemption. And that's the thing about it, is you get in here and you do the steps and you do the work. You can get life back. You can get respect. You can get all these types of things. And I saw that, and I saw some of these people that I drank just like they drank, or they were worse than me, or I was worse than them, but they were getting better, and I wanted it so bad. And I went on to a halfway house, and I got a sponsor, and I sat down, and I started working steps, and I was being honest, because I had done these things I won't get up and talk about at a podium, but we all do things that should stay in a closet and that we're just so ashamed of that nobody else has ever done. And I opened up to my sponsor, and I was doing my step work, and I said that I did this stuff, and he goes, John, it's okay. I've done that. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are other people who have done that. And I got a little bit of me back that night. I got a little bit of self-respect. I could look in the mirror, and I was okay with who I was. After 4 months of being in treatment, the only advice that they gave to me was, John, you need to get involved in Alcoholics Anonymous when you go home, Because if you don't, you're going to drink again. You're going to go through all this stuff. And then you're going to come back here and we're just going to give you the same advice. And I went back to Aberdeen and I had a meeting schedule and I showed up and there wasn't a meeting that night. I walked into this place and I said, hey, sorry, no meeting. Nobody's here. Good luck. And I just said, screw it. I was so pissed. I wasn't going to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And this guy had been doing my job while I was gone and he had been sober for quite a long time. And I had sat at home just knuckling it for a month or two. And he said, hey, John, there's this really good meeting down South Main Street, Zion Lutheran Church. I'm going to be there tonight. Why don't you show up? And I showed up to that meeting. I've never seen him there, ever. Not my whole life, not the whole time I've been sober. And I met Kevin and I met Ted. And I hated being there. I was nervous. Didn't want to just doing it. And I kept coming back because I was taking advice. I knew I had to do this type of thing. And so, again, it comes back to my theme this year is creating your own happiness. And that's kind of how I'm living my life right now. And I had to just shake their hands back and get to know people. And I had to take some ownership. And AA got to be a better thing for me. Like I actually started looking forward to, these people were genuinely interested in me and I was looking forward to going back the next week. And I took some ownership in the meeting. I started making coffee and now I felt like, wow, this meeting isn't going to happen unless I'm here. I mean, I bring value to this meeting and I did that and things started to work out for me and I was able to get a new sponsor and I was able to continue with steps. And I remember one time there was this guy that I had threatened one time and I never thought I could make amends to him. I saw him at a Target parking lot and I said, you know, I owe you an amends. And I was able to go make my peace with him. And that's something that took a burden off my shoulder. And I can say things on and on and on. And, you know, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm caffeinated and we went and ate at Carnival. So I'm having protein overload and that's really a great place to eat if you haven't been there yet. And before I sobered up, I loaned my brother Jason my lawnmower. And he didn't clean it the way I wanted him to clean. He's a dentist. And I went over to his office and I got him outside and I just gave him the business. And afterwards, he told me he was afraid of me because he didn't know what I was capable of. My own brother said that to me. He's afraid of me. Before I sobered up, I was in some arguments with my parents and I told them to go F themselves. I told them I could care less if they die. I had some family members who got into it. I said I could care less if they die. Because I'm that way sometimes. Sometimes I can shut down my emotions and I'm cold and I just don't care. Oh, man. Oh, man. So a year ago, or almost 2 years ago, my dad gave me his dog. My dad passed away 10 years ago. And he gave me his dog to take care of. And it got to the end of the dog's life where my brother, his children helped me dig the hole for her. And then I buried the dog a couple weeks later. And my nephew made a video for me, and he spent a lot of time on it, and it had a lot of pictures. I'm involved in my family's life. I'm involved in my nephew and niece's life. And that's a brother I didn't care about that was afraid of me. Alcoholics Anonymous has helped heal relationships in my life. And it's like, this kid worked on this video so many times. He went through it like 100 times with his dad because he just wanted it right. And I was home hurting and he sent it to me. And that's one of the nicest things I've ever done in my life. And that's because of doing step work and just reconnecting with people. I'm sorry about that, but anyways, in my sobriety, I've had such good times, but I've also had tough times too. One of the things that I really struggled with was perception of like who my family wants me to be or who I think I should be for other people. And I chased things. I chased things that harmed me because of it. And I got sick in Alcoholics Anonymous. When I was younger, my brother's dentist, and he's just absolutely my hero. He said, John, you should go to dental school and you should do this. So I got the biology degree and I did all these types of things. And I didn't want to be a dentist and I fought it really hard. And I made myself really sick. And I was afraid to reach out and talk to people. And the whole point of that is like I'd been sober like 5 or 6 years. And I got that crazy thinking again where I wanted to hurt myself. And I was too ashamed to talk to people about it. And I reached out and I got some help. And that's just something that happened in my sobriety. And the reason I'm saying that is because even though we're up here and sometimes we paint this picture perfect idea of what our life is now, things really happen here in sobriety. And the other thing that was really crazy, and I'm just gonna throw this out there too, because now we're playing the violin, and it's just like this, the woe is me, but this is some of the best parts of my life is, so 10 years ago, my dad's 65, he's beautiful, and he's healthy. And he's having some issues, so he goes on this fact-finding mission, and he ends up in Mayo, and he calls us up, and he tells me he's gonna die. And so my dad comes home that night. He's got this really rare one in a multiple million brain disease. And I'm sitting in his kitchen with him, and I looked him in the eyes and I said, "Dad, I love you. Your side of the street's clean, and my side of the street's clean. That's because of doing my amends, and that's because I'm living better, and that's because of the relationships I was able to mend because of this." And I was able to step up, and I was able to take some leadership, and I was able to help him the rest of his life. And towards the end of my dad's life, I'm outside with my brother Jason, my hero, and he goes, "Geez, John, you've really stepped up here, and you've really, I'm really proud of you, my hero, with what you're doing here with Dad." And then my brother Jason's telling me that's somebody I've always looked up to since I've been little. But that comes back to Alcoholics Anonymous, where it just shows us to suit up and to show up and do the next right thing. And I was able to stand up and do that in my life. And so I've had these hardships, but it's like where I'm at in my life, if I look back to 17 years ago, or even when I was a child, I'm happier than I've ever been. I have more meaning in my life. I have more joy in my life. I have real relationships with my family. I've had some really good successes, and I've had some failures. And, you know, the shitty thing about life is everybody's going to die, but not everybody's going to live. And so I think what this program really does for us is it gives us an opportunity and the freedom to live, to make our own happiness, to chase it. And so, God, I'm sorry. I don't always break down. I cry sometimes, but that's a hard breakdown. I'm sorry about that. But if you're new here tonight and you don't connect, my challenge for you is to go to some meetings, okay? Go to some meetings. Keep going until you find what you're looking for. The best advice I can give to is to pick up the book and start reading, because that's where all the truth is there. I mean, what I'm up here saying is just, it's my perspective, you know, and that's, you know, that big book has saved so many lives, and that has absolutely saved my life here. Man, guys, it's really an honor and privilege to be here. Mike, thank you for your time here tonight. And guys, keep coming back. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. Shall we close with the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. See you Saturday.
Johnny, stand over here. Let's everybody take a minute and thank the speaker, please.
Thank you.
I can't hear with the show, as you probably well noticed.